True heroism isn't measured in victories. It's measured in mercy, loyalty, and the lives we transform along the way. The chain-link fence pressed cold against Sarah Mitchell's back as three older boys closed in. Tyler Brooks blocked her only escape route, his friends Michael and Jason spreading out like wolves cornering their prey. The December wind bit through her thin jacket, but fear froze her more than any winter chill ever could. "Please," the 10-year-old whispered, clutching her backpack tight. "Just leave me alone." Tyler's hand shot out, ripping the bag from her grip. Books and papers scattered across the snow-covered parking lot. Her father's stuffed dog, the last thing she had of him, landed in a puddle of gray slush. When Sarah reached for it, Tyler shoved her hard. Her head cracked against the metal fence post. Pain exploded through her skull as she crumpled to the frozen ground, blood beginning to mat in her brown hair. The boys didn't know that 3 blocks away, a 90-pound German shepherd's ears had just detected his girl's terrified scream. Maplewood, Massachusetts was the kind of small New England town where everyone knew their neighbors and children walked to school without fear. With a population barely over 8,000, its tree-lined streets and Cape Cod houses spoke of working-class families who'd lived there for generations. In December, heavy snow blanketed everything, turning the modest downtown into a postcard scene. But winter also brought early darkness. The sun set by 4:30. Leaving long shadows and empty streets, places where danger could hide. On Elm Street, in a well-kept but aging Cape Cod home, lived Margaret Mitchell and her 10-year-old granddaughter, Sarah. Sarah was small for her age, with brown hair that fell past her shoulders and blue eyes that had seen too much sorrow. 3 years ago, a drunk driver had killed both her parents in a car accident. She'd been only 7. Suddenly orphaned and silent with grief, she came to live with her father's mother, Margaret, and slowly began to heal. But she remained withdrawn, speaking softly when she spoke at all, finding comfort in drawing pictures of animals instead of playing with other children. She was a good student who loved art class, where she could lose herself sketching dogs and horses. But she had few friends at Maplewood Elementary. For the past 2 months, 3 older boys had made her life miserable, stealing her lunch money, knocking her books into the snow, and mocking her worn winter coat. Sarah never told Margaret. Her grandmother already had enough to worry about. Margaret Mitchell was 72, her gray hair always tied in a practical bun, her kind eyes framed by soft wrinkles that deepened when she smiled. Arthritis plagued her hands and knees, worse in the bitter cold. A widow for 15 years, she'd lost her only child, David, in the same crash that took Sarah's mother. The double loss had nearly destroyed her, but she found strength in raising her granddaughter. Though money was tight on her retired teacher's pension, the arthritis meant she couldn't walk Sarah to school or pick her up. She hated that Sarah made the 3-block journey alone, but there was no alternative, except Rex. Rex was a 7-year-old German shepherd, 90 pounds of muscle and loyalty, wrapped in a black and tan coat. His amber eyes missed nothing. For 7 years, he'd served in Afghanistan as a military working dog, trained to detect explosives and protect soldiers. He'd been Lieutenant David Mitchell's K-9 partner for 5 of those years, saving 3 soldiers' lives by finding IEDs before they detonated. When David died, Rex had mourned. He'd refused food for days until the Army retired him early and sent him home to David's family. For 6 months now, Rex had lived with Margaret and Sarah, transferring his fierce protective instincts from his fallen handler to the small girl who needed him most. He slept beside her bed every night, ears alert to the slightest sound. Each afternoon, he waited on the front porch for her return, his internal clock perfectly tuned to her schedule. The bullying began 8 weeks ago, an ordinary October morning. Tyler Brooks, a 12-year-old 6th grader with red hair and a mean streak, had spotted Sarah eating lunch alone, small, quiet, always by herself. Easy prey. It started with name-calling in the hallways. Orphan girl, poor little Sarah. She tried to ignore them, keeping her head down, walking faster. But Tyler's 2 friends, Michael Chen and Jason Weber, followed his lead, making ignoring impossible. By the 3rd week, it escalated. Tyler demanded her lunch money. First $2, then $3. Sarah handed it over without protest, hoping compliance would buy her peace. Margaret noticed Sarah eating less at dinner, but when she asked, Sarah simply said she wasn't hungry. Each afternoon, Rex could smell the stress on her skin. He'd press his warm body against her legs, offering silent comfort. By week 5, intimidation turned physical. Tyler pushed her in the hallway, not hard enough to knock her down, just enough to make her stumble. Her books hit the floor. Her hat was yanked off. She came home soaked and cold. By week 7, it was destruction. Her art project, days of careful work, ripped to shreds in the girl's bathroom, her sketches torn and scattered. She started taking longer routes home, adding 10 minutes to avoid them. When Margaret asked, Sarah said she'd been helping teachers after school. That Monday, Sarah stayed late grading art projects. By the time she left, the building was nearly empty. The temperature hovered at 28 degrees, old snow crusting the sidewalks. She decided to take the shortcut through Miller's hardware store parking lot, usually busy but quiet that late afternoon. She thought she'd be safe. She was wrong. Tyler, Michael, and Jason had been waiting. They stepped from behind a delivery truck as the chain-link fence boxed her in. "Please, just leave me alone," Sarah said, clutching her backpack like a shield. "Aw, is the baby going to cry?" Tyler sneered. "I don't have any money today," she whispered. "Then what good are you?" He yanked the backpack away, spilling everything across the icy pavement. Her father's stuffed dog fell into a puddle. Sarah's breath caught. It was the last piece of him she had. "Give it back," she said, her voice shaking but stronger than before. Tyler laughed and shoved her. She hit the post hard, blood streaking her hair. Dazed, she remembered her grandmother's words. "If you're ever in real trouble, call for Rex. He'll hear you." With the last of her strength, Sarah screamed into the freezing air. "Rex! Rex, help me!" The boys laughed, mocking her. "Is Rex your boyfriend? Gonna come save you." But 3 blocks away, Rex's head snapped up. His girl was in danger. The gate was latched, but Rex had cleared higher fences. With a powerful leap, he was gone, running full speed toward her scream. His claws scraped pavement, breath steaming in the cold, eyes fixed on the direction of her voice. 90 seconds later, the boys heard it, the low, rolling growl that makes even predators freeze. And from the shadows, Rex emerged. Rex stood perfectly still, muscles tense, his massive frame still hovering protectively over Sarah. His eyes never left the boys. The low rumble deep in his chest wasn't just a growl, it was a warning carved from instinct and devotion. Every movement spoke clearly. Leave now or face the consequences. Tyler froze, fear replacing arrogance. His bravado crumbled under the weight of those amber eyes. "Run," he whispered hoarsely. The 3 boys bolted, their footsteps crunching through the snow as they disappeared around the corner. Only when the last echo of their retreat faded did Rex shift. The transformation was remarkable. The warrior vanished, and the gentle family dog emerged once again. He lowered his head to Sarah, pressing his warm nose against her cheek. A soft whimper escaped his throat, the sound he reserved only for family. His eyes scanned her face, checking for movement, for breath, for life. "Rex." Sarah's voice trembled, her small arms wrapped weakly around his thick neck as sobs broke free. "You came. You really came." Rex remained perfectly still, letting her cry into his fur. His warmth was the only comfort in that frozen parking lot. After a long moment, he stepped back carefully and began gathering the scattered remnants of her world. With delicate precision, he picked up her soaked stuffed dog from the slush, holding it gently in his powerful jaws. He placed it softly in her lap. Then, retrieving her backpack by the strap, he dropped it within her reach. Sarah tried to stand, but swayed dangerously, her head spinning from the concussion. Instantly, Rex pressed his solid body against her legs, anchoring her, stabilizing her. Leaning on him, she managed to rise, though the world tilted and blurred. They began the slow walk home. Step by step, Rex matching her unsteady pace, stopping whenever she needed to rest. What was usually a 10-minute journey took nearly 15. From her kitchen window, Mrs. Peterson noticed them. The girl limping, the dog supporting her. Alarmed, she rushed outside, her heart pounding. One look at Sarah's blood-matted hair told her everything she needed to know. She called Margaret first, then 911, her trembling hands barely holding the phone steady. By the time the ambulance siren pierced the quiet neighborhood, Margaret was already running down the sidewalk despite the pain searing through her arthritic knees. When she saw Sarah, her face pale, blood streaking her hair, her legs almost gave out. She gripped the fence post to steady herself, but forced herself to stay calm. Her granddaughter needed her to be strong. Paramedics arrived within minutes. One of them knelt beside Sarah, examining the wound. "We've got a concussion and possible scalp laceration," he said. Rex stood firm beside Sarah, his body pressed protectively against her side. When a paramedic tried to move him away, a deep, warning growl vibrated from his chest. "It's okay," Margaret said quickly. "He's her protector. He won't hurt you, but he won't leave her either." The paramedic nodded. "Understood. He can come in the ambulance." They lifted Sarah onto the stretcher, and Rex leapt in before anyone could stop him. He positioned himself where he could see her face, his amber eyes locked on her. Even as the doors closed and the ambulance pulled away, Rex didn't blink. He wouldn't rest until she was safe. At Maplewood General Hospital, Dr. Patricia Chen examined Sarah with gentle precision, while Rex lay quietly beside the table, his gaze following every movement. The doctor cleaned the wound, stitched the 3-inch laceration, and diagnosed a grade 2 concussion. Bruises marked Sarah's shoulder and hip, evidence of how hard she'd hit the ground. X-rays ruled out a skull fracture, and when the results came back clear, Margaret finally exhaled, tears filling her eyes. Dr. Chen smiled softly. She'll recover fully with rest. The stitches will heal, and her hair will cover any scar. But Margaret's relief was short-lived when the hospital administrator began discussing costs. Her expression fell and her trembling hands gripped her purse. Fortunately, the hospital's social worker arrived quickly, explaining that Sarah qualified for the charity care program. Meanwhile, Rex never left her side. Recognizing his military credentials, the staff allowed him to stay in the examination room, an exception few questioned once they learned how he'd saved Sarah's life. At 5 p.m., Officer Patricia Morrison arrived. A 15-year veteran of the Maplewood Police Department, she'd built a reputation for compassion and strength, especially in cases involving children. She sat beside Sarah's hospital bed, notebook in hand, and spoke softly. "Can you tell me what happened, sweetheart?" And for the first time, Sarah did. Between small breaths and trembling pauses, she told Officer Morrison everything: the months of bullying, the insults, the theft, the destruction of her art, and finally, the attack that afternoon. Margaret listened in shocked silence, her heart breaking anew. "You should have told me," she whispered. "I didn't want to worry you," Sarah said. "You already have enough to deal with." Officer Morrison's voice was firm but kind. "Sarah, this isn't just bullying anymore. This was assault, and it's serious." She carefully photographed the injuries and bagged the torn, blood-stained jacket as evidence. Sarah described Rex's actions clearly, that he'd only threatened the boys but never bitten or harmed them. Officer Morrison wrote it all down, noting the dog's restraint as proof of exceptional training and discipline. Margaret provided Rex's military service records, and the officer nodded in respect. This dog's a hero. The next step was clear. Interviews with the boys and their parents would begin at dawn. That evening at 6:45, Officer Morrison visited the scene. The parking lot was dark now, lit by a single streetlight. She took photographs. Blood on the fence post, Sarah's footprints in the snow, the boys' boot prints circling her. Then she found something crucial. Miller's Hardware had security cameras. The owner, Bill Miller, returned after her call and helped her access the footage. The video was grainy, but clear enough. Tyler shoving Sarah, her head striking metal, her body collapsing to the ground, her desperate scream. Rex's arrival, the boys fleeing. It was undeniable evidence, and it showed Rex's perfect restraint. This was no longer just a school matter. It was now a criminal case. Robert Weber sat silently in the principal's office, his weathered hands clasped tightly together. His wife, Karen, had died 2 years earlier, leaving behind a silence that seemed to echo through every corner of their home. Since then, Robert had been working 2 jobs, drowning in exhaustion and bills, trying to keep life stitched together for his son. When Officer Morrison showed him the security footage, he didn't try to defend Jason. The grief in his eyes deepened into something colder, resolve. He watched, frame by frame, as his son shoved Sarah into the fence post. Watched her fall, bleed, cry. It was a kind of horror no father was prepared to face. He had been absent, yes, but absence didn't excuse cruelty. Karen would have been heartbroken to see their son like this. Her memory stood like a moral compass in Robert's mind, pointing sharply toward what had to be done. Officer Morrison spoke gently, recognizing the weariness behind Robert's eyes. "Grief counseling might help him," she said. "It won't erase this, but it could start healing something deeper." Robert nodded without hesitation. "He needs it. We both do." Money was tight, too tight, but that didn't matter anymore. He would find a way. The officer handed him a brochure for a free community program. Robert accepted it with quiet gratitude, already deciding to cut one of his night shifts to spend more time with Jason. This wasn't about punishment anymore. It was about saving what was left of his boy's soul. By the end of the day, all 3 families left the school humbled and shaken. Each had seen the truth in black and white, the ugly reality their sons had tried to hide behind teenage bravado. Sarah spent Tuesday and Wednesday at home, recovering under her grandmother's watchful care. The concussion left her dizzy and weak, the headaches sharp and constant. Light hurt her eyes, and every sudden sound made her flinch. Margaret stayed by her side, checking her every hour as Dr. Chen had instructed. Rex, though, was her true guardian. He never left her for a moment. If Sarah moved to the couch, he followed. If she stirred in bed, he lifted his head immediately. His loyalty was absolute, his instincts sharper than ever. When nightmares clawed at her sleep, Rex was there, pressing his muzzle to her cheek, a low whine rumbling deep in his chest until she woke. By Wednesday evening, the bruises had begun to fade, but the fear remained. Sarah was quieter now, her spark dimmed. When the doorbell rang, she jumped so hard she dropped her cup of tea. Margaret's heart ached. She recognized trauma when she saw it. After one phone call to the school counselor, she had the number of a child therapist who specialized in trauma. Money was a worry, but it didn't matter. Sarah's healing came first. The story spread through Maplewood faster than wildfire. It began with Mrs. Peterson. who told her neighbor, who told another, until it reached the newsroom of the Maplewood Chronicle. The headline appeared in bold black letters the next morning. Retired military canine saves girl from brutal attack. The article praised Rex's bravery and restraint, a hero dog who'd once served his country and now protected his family. What followed was something extraordinary. Neighbors brought over casseroles and homemade soups. The local church took up a special offering, raising $800 in one Sunday. The hardware store owner, Bill Miller, whose security footage had helped the investigation, donated $200 personally. The pharmacy covered Sarah's medication. A pet store offered a year's supply of premium dog food for Rex. Even the local veterans organization reached out, wanting to honor Rex at their next event. And the students, hundreds of them, made colorful cards filled with kind words, glitter, and hand-drawn hearts. Some of them wrote confessions, too, admitting they had been bullied themselves but were now brave enough to speak up because of Sarah's story. Margaret read those cards through tears. For the first time since the attack, Sarah smiled. Small, tired, but real. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she'd believed. That same night across town, Tyler Brooks lay awake staring at his ceiling. Sleep refused to come. His father's disappointment had been devastating, his mother's tears even worse. But it wasn't punishment that haunted him. It was memory. He saw Sarah's face, frozen in that moment of shock and pain. He heard the thud when her head hit the fence. He saw the blood. The laughter that had followed, his laughter, echoed back at him now like something monstrous. And Rex, those eyes, amber, steady, full of something ancient and righteous. That dog could have ripped him apart, but hadn't. Tyler turned on his side, choking on his own guilt. His grandmother's face came to mind. Kind eyes, soft voice, always reminding him to be gentle. She would have been disgusted by what he'd become. Tears slipped down his face as the truth sank in. He could have killed her. By morning, he hadn't slept a minute. His father noticed the hollow look in his eyes. "You all right, son?" he asked quietly. "No," Tyler admitted. "I can't stop thinking about her." It wasn't fear of punishment anymore. It was remorse. For the first time, he cared about the person he'd hurt. He asked if Sarah was okay, if she'd recover. His parents exchanged a look of cautious hope. Maybe this was the first flicker of redemption. That night, Tyler made a decision. He would apologize in person. His parents warned him that Sarah might refuse to see him, that she had every right to. But Tyler shook his head. "It's not about me," he said. "It's about her. I need to say it." He spent hours writing and rewriting his apology, tearing up draft after draft until he found the courage to be honest. No excuses, no self-pity, just truth. When he finished, his hand trembled as he signed his name. Friday morning arrived. Sarah was terrified to return to school. Her grandmother offered to walk her, but Sarah insisted on going alone, with one condition: Rex would come. The school agreed, granting Rex temporary status as a therapy dog. Margaret had ordered a red vest that read, "Service dog, do not pet." It arrived just in time. Walking beside Rex, Sarah felt safer, stronger. Other students stared as she passed. But this time, the looks weren't cruel. They were full of awe and respect. Inside the building, teachers watched closely, the air charged with quiet seriousness. In a special assembly that morning, Principal Hartley addressed the entire school. She spoke of courage, of accountability, and the cost of silence. Without naming names, she made her point clear. Bullying would no longer be tolerated. Sarah sat in the back, her heart heavy. But when another girl approached afterward, whispering that Sarah's story gave her courage to speak out too, something inside her began to heal. Her suffering had meaning now. It was changing things, and that, she realized, was its own kind of strength. Sarah paused, weighing her words carefully. "Rex scared you pretty badly, didn't he?" Tyler nodded, his honesty immediate. Yeah, he did." She looked down at Rex, hand resting lightly on his broad head. "But he didn't hurt you. He could have, but he didn't. He showed me that real strength is protecting people, not hurting them." Tyler met her gaze, silent, absorbing her meaning. Sarah continued, her voice steadier now. "If Rex can choose not to hurt someone who hurt me, maybe I can choose to give you a chance to be better." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, and maybe not ever, but it was a sliver of possibility, a lifeline Tyler hadn't dared hope for. He nodded slowly, understanding the extraordinary gift he'd just been handed. Margaret stepped forward. The wisdom of her 72 years and decades of teaching lending weight to her every word. "Do you know what loyalty means, son?" she asked Tyler directly. He shook his head. Margaret's voice was calm but firm. "Loyalty is showing up. Every day, especially when it's hard. Rex was loyal to my son David for 5 years in Afghanistan. When David died, Rex mourned. Dogs grieve just like people do. But he didn't give up, he waited. And when Sarah came to live with us, protecting her became his purpose." Her voice trembled with emotion, but she pressed on. "Monday, he ran 3 blocks in under 2 minutes. He could have torn you apart. Everything in him screamed to neutralize the threat with force. But he assessed the situation, protected Sarah, and stepped down the moment you left. That's discipline. That's real strength. Do you want to be strong?" Learn from him. Real strength protects. Real strength knows when not to fight. Real strength is being loyal when nobody's watching, when it's easier to walk away. Christopher Brooks listened intently, nodding in agreement, while Tyler stared, absorbing every word. Then Margaret, taking a risk she knew could backfire, made an offer no one expected. "Tyler, you hurt my granddaughter. That's a fact. You'll live with it and face the consequences. But if you're serious about changing, I have a proposition." She paused. "Rex needs exercise, long walks every day. My arthritis makes it hard, especially in winter. If your parents agree, you could help. 3 times a week, not as punishment, but as an opportunity." Tyler's eyes widened. Christopher's voice was cautious. "Mrs. Mitchell, are you sure?" Margaret shook her head, honest. "No, but I believe in second chances. I believe people can change if they're given the chance. And guidance. Maybe spending time with a loyal, disciplined dog who knows what it means to serve others will teach you lessons no lecture ever could." She glanced at Sarah. "If that's okay with you." Sarah hesitated, instinct urging her to refuse, to keep Tyler at a distance, but she looked at Rex, remembered his restraint, and slowly nodded. Margaret turned back to Tyler, serious. "Understand this, son. Hurt her again, physically or emotionally, and you'll answer to me. And trust me, I can be scarier than Rex when someone threatens my family." Tyler nodded, solemn. "I won't, I promise. I'll be better." 2 months later, a sunny February afternoon found Maplewood Community Center overflowing. Tyler had walked Rex 24 times, and their relationship had evolved from wary tolerance to genuine companionship. Tyler had learned Rex's commands, routines, and personality, observing firsthand how the dog protected without aggression, maintained patience, and exercised discipline. Sarah had grown comfortable watching Tyler transform from bully to helper. At school, Tyler now intervened to protect others, using his presence for good. The stage at the community center was adorned with American flags and military insignia. Photos traced Rex's life, from training to Afghanistan to life with Sarah. Margaret and Sarah sat together, Rex at Sarah's feet in his service vest, calm and attentive. Tyler and his parents were several rows back, tense but resolute. Mayor Jennifer Walsh opened the ceremony. Speaking of courage, loyalty, and heroism, Commander James Hartwell, retired Army officer, shared Rex's service record: 7 years of active duty, multiple commendations, and countless lives saved. But Rex's service didn't end with retirement. Hartwell described the parking lot incident, emphasizing Rex's restraint and precise protection. "This is the hallmark of exceptional training and temperament," he said. Sarah and Margaret joined the stage, Rex walking at perfect heel. The crowd erupted as Hartwell placed the Maplewood Community Service Award around Rex's neck. The first time in the town's history the honor had been given to an animal. Tears glistened in eyes across the hall as Sarah embraced Rex. When she took the microphone, voice trembling at first, it grew strong. "Most heroes wear uniforms. My dad was a hero. Rex was a hero in Afghanistan. But Rex taught me that being a hero is simpler. It's showing up for people who need you. It's being loyal when it's hard. It's protecting people without hurting them. Rex could have hurt those boys, but he didn't. Real strength is choosing to be gentle when you could be fierce. Thank you, Rex, for saving me, for saving them too." 1 year later, at 8 years old, Rex's body began to show the toll of service. Hip dysplasia and arthritis slowed him, but his devotion never wavered. Margaret prepared Sarah for the reality they would eventually face. Rex wouldn't live forever. Spring brought a final rally of energy. Precious time they cherished. Tyler continued his walks, helping Rex when his legs faltered. Sarah spent every possible moment beside him, drawing him into her art, capturing memories before they faded. And when the inevitable day arrived, Rex rested his massive head in Sarah's lap, amber eyes still warm, still focused, though tired. Sarah whispered through tears, "Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for showing me love. Thank you for being my best friend." Tyler sat nearby, solemn, sharing the quiet reverence of a boy transformed by a loyal dog's gentle strength. Tears streamed down Tyler's face as he knelt beside Rex, voice trembling. "You made me better," he whispered. "You taught me what matters. You showed me the kind of man I want to be." Margaret knelt beside Sarah, her hand resting gently on the girl's shoulder. Her own voice broke as she added, "Thank you for saving David's life in Afghanistan. Thank you for saving Sarah's life here. Thank you for giving both of us purpose." Dr. Martinez entered quietly, carrying her supplies, speaking gently as she explained each step. Rex was in pain, his body shutting down. They could let him go peacefully, without struggle. Sarah nodded through her tears, knowing that holding on now would only prolong his suffering. She gave permission for the hardest decision of her life. Rex lay on his favorite blanket, surrounded by everyone who loved him. The first injection was a sedative, relaxing him. He sighed deeply, tension melting from his frame. "I love you, Rex," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. You're the best dog that ever lived, Margaret added softly. Thank you for your service to David, to Sarah, to all of us. You taught me what it means to be strong. Tyler's voice joined hers, thick with emotion. Thank you for showing me what real strength is. The second injection stopped his heart. Less than a minute passed before Rex breathed his last. Peaceful and free from pain. He looked as if he had merely fallen asleep, finally unburdened by the years of service and discomfort. Sarah sobbed into his fur while Margaret held her close, tears flowing freely. Tyler stepped back, giving them privacy but remaining in the room, grieving silently for the dog who had reshaped his life. Dr. Martinez confirmed the end and quietly left, allowing them time alone. They stayed with Rex for over an hour, saying their final goodbyes before Margaret called the pet cremation service. That night, the house felt impossibly quiet. Monday morning, Sarah woke briefly forgetting, then memory crashed back. Rex wasn't there. His spot beside her bed was empty, the porch vacant, the world suddenly harsher. Tyler met her on the walk to school, offering quiet companionship, a living reminder of Rex's impact. At school, teachers were gentle. Classmates expressed condolences, some in tears themselves, remembering the dog who had patiently listened to them read. Coming home was hardest. His bowls, toys, and bed remained untouched. Margaret left them for now, knowing neither of them was ready to pack away his presence. Grief struck unpredictably. Dog hair on her jacket, a glance at Rex's photograph, the absence of his breathing at night. Margaret moved a sleeping bag into Sarah's room, offering the comfort Rex once provided. Tyler's daily visits helped too, proof that Rex's life had rippled outward, changing people as he had changed them. By Friday, they collected Rex's ashes in a beautiful wooden box, accompanied by a clay impression of his paw print. Margaret placed the memorial on the fireplace mantel beside David's photograph. Planning began for a town-wide tribute. Veterans, students, and neighbors wanted to honor the dog whose 9-year life had touched so many. Tyler suggested a scholarship in Rex's name for students who showed courage in standing up for others, a perfect extension of his legacy. The following Saturday, over 300 people gathered at Maplewood Town Park. Photos displayed Rex from puppyhood to his military service, alongside David and at home with Sarah. Veterans formed an honor guard. Flowers adorned the stage, many from people who had never met Rex but felt a connection. Margaret and Sarah sat together at the front, tissues in hand. Tyler, Michael, Jason, and their families occupied seats a few rows back, a living testament to transformation inspired by Rex's example. The ceremony began with a moment of silence. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees as Mayor Walsh addressed the crowd, acknowledging Rex's profound impact. Commander Hartwell spoke of military working dogs, reading a letter from a soldier Rex had saved in Afghanistan. He detected an IED that would have killed 6 of us. He lived to protect. It was his nature, his purpose, his calling. Thank you, Rex. Your life mattered. The veterans saluted, some openly crying as taps echoed across the park. 10 elementary students then came forward, each holding artwork of Rex, created during his final months as part of a reading program. Their small voices told of his patience, encouragement, and the confidence he instilled. Tyler stepped to the microphone, now 14, taller, more composed. Most of you know my story. 2 years ago, I was the worst kind of person. I bullied Sarah. I hurt her. But Rex changed me. He could have torn me apart, but he didn't. He showed restraint, patience, and loyalty, the real strength I never understood before. Tears streamed freely as he continued. I walked Rex 3 times a week for over a year. He taught me patience, loyalty, discipline, and that being strong means protecting people, not hurting them. I'll study psychology in college to help kids who might become bullies if no one intervenes. Rex didn't just save Sarah, he saved me from becoming someone I couldn't live with. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the chance he gave me. Principal Janet Hartley spoke next, sharing school-wide statistics. Bullying incidents down 73%, anonymous reports up 200%, signaling a safer, more responsible environment. Rex's example had catalyzed lasting change. Michael Chen and Jason Weber also spoke, recounting personal transformations inspired by Rex, from volunteering at animal shelters to grief counseling programs, extending his influence even beyond Maplewood. Every speaker emphasized the enduring legacy of a dog who lived to serve, protect, and teach others the meaning of real strength. Instead of punishment, they had been given opportunities to grow, to become better people, and they had taken those opportunities seriously. Margaret finally took the microphone, her voice steady but rich with the wisdom of 72 years. Rex came from a world of violence, she said, trained to find explosives, apprehend enemies, to use force when necessary. But when he came home, he learned gentleness. He protected my granddaughter without perpetuating the cycle of violence. That is the lesson we all need to learn. We can choose to be better versions of ourselves. Tyler, Michael, and Jason had made terrible choices as children, but they were still capable of growth. Rex had seen that. He scared them, yes. He protected Sarah, absolutely. But more than that, he gave them a chance to change, to live differently, to become better. That was grace. That was mercy. That was heroism, protecting the innocent without destroying the guilty, creating space for transformation. Rex's final lesson had been simple yet profound, and the town of Maplewood would carry it forward for generations. 3 months later, on a warm August afternoon, the community gathered again, this time to dedicate a permanent memorial. The site was at the entrance of Maplewood Elementary, where Rex had spent his last months as a therapy dog. The garden formed a serene semicircle, filled with flowers that would bloom from spring through fall. At the center, a bench invited reflection, and behind it rose a life-sized bronze statue of Rex in his protective stance, alert, noble, immortalized in a moment of guardianship. A brass plaque on granite read, "Rex, military hero and guardian. He taught us that true strength protects, true loyalty endures, and true love asks nothing in return." Funded entirely by community donations, the memorial exceeded its goal by nearly $3,000, which established the Rex Scholarship Fund, an annual $1,000 award for a student demonstrating courage and standing up for others. The first recipient was Emma, the young reader who had spoken at Rex's earlier memorial service. The garden also featured a dog-friendly walking path for therapy visits, multiple reading benches, and memorial bricks purchased by families. Sarah's read, "For Rex, who saved me twice, once from danger, once from fear." Tyler's, "Rex taught me that second chances matter." Margaret's commemorated David and Rex, brothers in service. 5 years later, Sarah, now 17, was a confident high school senior, president of the anti-bullying club and a peer mentorship program. She had earned early admission to Cornell University's veterinary program. Her college essay told of Rex and how he had shaped her understanding of strength, loyalty, and courage. She still sketched and painted him, keeping his memory alive, visiting the memorial weekly to speak to his bronze likeness as if he could still hear her. Rex's ashes remained at home on the mantle beside her father's photograph. Tyler, 19, was a college sophomore studying psychology, maintaining Dean's List status, mentoring at-risk youth, and volunteering with therapy dogs. His senior thesis would focus on animal-assisted therapy for behavioral change, inspired entirely by Rex. Margaret, now 77, still active despite worsening arthritis, took pride in seeing Sarah flourish, knowing that Rex had completed his mission. Maplewood had become a model for anti-bullying programs. Its culture transformed from bystander to upstander, with 6 therapy dogs regularly participating in school programs. On a December evening, 5 years after the parking lot incident, snow fell gently as Sarah walked home alone, confident and calm. She passed the spot where everything had changed, and for the first time felt no fear, only gratitude. Ahead, she saw a young girl being followed by 2 middle school boys, teasing her. Sarah's heart tightened. The girl reminded her painfully of her younger self. Without hesitation, she crossed the street, confidence in her stride, courage in her heart. "Hey!" she said firmly, and the boys immediately backed away. Sarah walked the girl safely home, declining the offered reward. "Someone saved me once," she explained. "Now I help others." The girl asked who had saved her. Sarah smiled, thinking of amber eyes and unwavering loyalty. "His name was Rex," she said softly. "He taught me that heroes show up when they're needed." She continued toward the memorial garden, brushing snow from the bronze statue. She touched the cold metal, whispering her thanks as she had countless times before. Church bells rang in the distance, and the community gathered for evening service. Sarah carried Rex's lesson forward. Real strength protects, real loyalty shows up. Real love chooses mercy. Rex's spirit remained alive in Sarah. Tyler, Michael, Jason, and every person he had touched. Margaret found purpose in her grief. Sarah discovered courage she never knew she possessed. Tyler transformed from bully to protector. The animals we love leave paw prints on our hearts, teaching lessons of loyalty, forgiveness, and unconditional love that endure long after they are gone. Rex's legacy was living proof that it is never too late to change, to heal, and to become the person our loyal companions always believed we could be.